From UDO in partnership with TSN, welcome to episode 35 of the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. Ray Ferraro in BC. Here I am, Darren Dreger in Ontario. And episode 35, Ray, you know, it feels like this should be episode 2. Now, we've been on a bit of a hiatus, pandemic related, obviously. How have you been? Have you been good? Everything fine in the Ferraro?
Yeah, I'd say been generally speaking, yeah. I mean, certainly I haven't been on a plane since March the 13th, which is, never has been the last time that's happened. I mean, I think like a lot of people, you get time to think over this last 5 months, and man, I've been traveling almost nonstop for 35 years.
Yeah.
And so this has been really different. I mean, I've spent more time around home, spent lots of time with the kids, where there are times where you go, holy man, this is like we feel like we're in a good groove, and then you're kind of like, oh boy, this is never going to end. And so I think we're the same as lots of people. We're all good, we're all healthy though, and that's certainly that's been the main thing.
I've been following. I mean, you follow lots of people on social media, tons of accounts. So do I, and I feel inferior or lazy because people are doing this, they're doing that, they're learning new skills, all of these things. And I'm like, you know what I did, Ray? I stopped chewing my nails.
Oh, well, there you go.
Look at those bad boys. I've never had fingernails.
Just think, you could be a hand model.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Jeff Odgers, that's the hand model.
Yeah, I would say the one thing that I've done more than anything is I've played about 40 rounds of golf.
Oh, good for you.
So, I mean, that was in British Columbia. That was one of the first things that we could do that was outside your tiny little bubble. And so, I mean, that feels normal, but holy man, this is just the craziest time to be alive. It really is. I mean, I can't, I feel badly for the young people who are, I've got a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, and man, they're always going to wonder about this, and always, their whole lives, this will be something they'll be able to reference. And it's almost too big to get your head around.
Does we know we're not through it. We know we're not through it, but and maybe there's danger in feeling like we're through it at this point, if you know what I'm saying. Like, you and I were, our families and all who are around us were very, very careful. I remember, maybe the last podcast we did before we went into hiatus, talking about, how careful we are. And now we're still careful. We're wearing masks where you need to wear a mask and all of those things. But it has a different feel, and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't want to get complacent in everything that I have to do.
Well, I think part of it is we're just becoming more used to living in this time, and so the things that you had to think about now, you don't think about. Like I don't even think about getting out of the car unless I got my mask in my hand. And where before you had to go, oh, where's my mask? I got to put it on. I've got to have, like there was an urgency to it. Now it's one of the things I do when I get out and I go into a store, I'm wearing a mask. And so I think that's probably what's happening a little bit. I know we're all tired of it. We all want it to just go away, but it's not just going to go away. And we have to continue to do whatever we can to do our little part to it. But
for sure,
man, whatever the fall looks like, our kids going to go to school. Your kids are older, but would be university stuff. Like my kids are in the 8th and the 5th grade, and I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, my older son Landon's, looking to go back to Europe, but they don't know what's happening there either. They're like, the leagues aren't ready to go and started, and it's stuff like that, Dregs, that makes me realize this isn't just our problem here, right? Like, when people say it's a political problem or a politically driven thing, is it politically driven all over the world? Because I have real life examples in other countries because we can see them, and and Landon would be a person affected by that. Like, it's everywhere, and it's just crazy to think that that's the case.
So we're going to get into the hockey headlines in just a moment, but as you're talking, I'm trying to visualize, because I've traveled extensively with you, and we've talked a lot about this on the podcast. We had Gord Miller earlier in the season talking about some of the travel experiences with you and whatnot. So when you walk into a grocery store or any business for that matter, and you're masked up, Cammie's got her mask on, the kids have their masks on, and you're probably not traveling as a pack.
No, we don't. Never. No.
Why would you? I understand that. But see, I'd like to have a Ray cam on you at all times when you're going from business to business, even though you probably don't go out a whole bunch other than play golf, because I feel like, as you should be, you're that guy who you look across the grocery store and you see some dude with his mask pulled under his chin or below his nose, your blood pressure goes up instantly. Is that a fair assessment?
No, you'd be surprised. When I go in the grocery store, I keep my head down. I concentrate on breathing into my own mask. I grab the broccoli and whatever the heck I'm getting in there, and I'm like zipping through, and I'm not lingering in there. Like I'm following the arrows. I'm moving along. I get what I need to get, and I'm out of there.
Yeah.
I will say though, that little scenario you gave, the mask under the chin, why wear it?
It's ridiculous.
Like, I guess you maybe think you're proving a point, but just don't wear one then.
Yeah. So one thing that's become apparent to me, I take a good amount of pride in hygiene, dental hygiene included, right? Brush my teeth several times a day, floss, do all the stuff that you need to do. I don't remember the last time I had a cavity, but
I'm going to the dentist, by the way.
I know. So we work in close proximity. I mean, you're in healthier times, you're shoulder to shoulder with Gord, certainly at the World Championships. I mean, it's tight quarters there. So if you or he or I have bad breath, it's an issue. So
you, by the way, are not shy about saying, "Whoa, breath mint."
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But now I'm checking myself, because like I've got mints in my pocket all the time. When you can't stand yourself because of the mask, that's worrisome.
You have breathed into your own mask and gone,
for it.
100%.
Yeah, but what's scary is it's like 30 minutes after I've just brushed my teeth. Like, what is going on?
Yeah, I don't have an answer for you there, Dregs.
All right, we've got Ask Ray and Dregs coming up, and it's actually Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. It was a popular segment. We're going to continue on with that, so we'll drill down on a few things with Ray. At least for the time being, we're not shelving Throat Punch. We're going to bring it back. It just feels more appropriate to bring it back when we've had some hockey, some experiences, some examples to digest, because otherwise, we're picking on the people in grocery stores and the non-mask wearers as our Throat Punch candidates. Too easy, right?
No, we'll wait till we get some games back. I would suspect, like August 1st is everything's underway here, just a couple of days away, and there'll be plenty of stuff that's happening with the multiple games every day.
A reminder as well to check out our Ray and Dregs YouTube channel, where you can watch full episodes and interviews from the podcast. So check it out and please subscribe to that. Some cool partnership things, Ray, in the works with Tim Hortons and the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. We can't say much more about that right now, but it's developing and it's exciting. Tim's is celebrating the return of NHL hockey on their mobile app with a fun fantasy hockey game, and we're all into that. Each day you pick 3 players, and if they score, you score some tasty Tim's prizes and rewards. So you're going to want to check that out. And thanks for everyone who played in our inaugural Ray and Dregs fantasy hockey pool. Congratulations to the top 3 finishers. Winning it all, Ryan Topping. 2 points back of him was Kurt Hamlin. And rounding out the top 3, 2 points back of Kurt, was Connor Percy. So that's
a pretty good battle up at the top.
Strong trio at the top. As far as the epic season-long back-and-forth battle between you and I, Ray,
that wasn't a back and forth battle.
No, it was tight. It was right there down to the wire. If I'd have had a 51-point final game, I would have had a chance because you beat me by 51 points.
You needed my season to be paused in January and yours to continue to March.
Well,
I think that would have brought it closer.
It might have. I'm going to study your roster. I may have learned a thing or two from your approach. So we'll see if that translates into anything different in terms of the outcome for me moving forward in 2021. We're going to fire up the pool again with more awesome prizes for the 2020-21 season later this fall. And by the way, we talked about the great online sponsorships. If you're interested in partnering with us here on the Ray and Dregs podcast, hit our website up, rayandregs.com, and you can fill out the sponsorship info form there. Headlines today brought to you by our pals at Boston Pizza and their new pizza flights, available for a limited time. So be mindful of this. A limited time, 3 pizzas, 3 dips. You choose your pizza lineup. We'll see you at Boston Pizza. Great patio for puck drop, multiple games. It's going to be an unreal experience. So hit up a Boston Pizza patio near you. As we go into headlines, we've watched a total or parts of a total of 9 exhibition games to date. We're recording the podcast here, Ray, on Thursday. Overall, your impression of the pace and the quality of play after the better part of 4.5 months on pause?
I thought it was pretty good. I mean, like I don't think, or I hope people weren't expecting the guys to come flying out of the chute and crashing around right away. I mean, you can scrimmage all you want, but it's a little different when you get against somebody on the other side. And I think there's still some uncertainty about how this is all going to shake out. Like, what are the games going to be like? And certainly Dregs in an exhibition game, you generally don't want to be the guy that plays like a jackass. Like you're just trying to get to the next game. You're trying to get yourself healthy, get yourself a few shifts. And I thought it was pretty good. I'll tell you what I did enjoy. Watching the Winnipeg-Vancouver game, Nick Ehlers came out of the game in the third period for precautionary measures, and so he left. And then Jansen Harkins showed up on the bench with 9.5 minutes left in the game. So I don't know what Jansen was doing for the previous 2.5 hours, but that's a lot of scurrying around to get ready to get on the bench for 3 shifts at the end. It just cracked me up to see him sitting there. And I can picture Paul Maurice going in after the game and saying, guys, good job. Nice first start. Jansen, you were the key. Like the kid was there for 3 shifts.
Would there be a nervous energy as a player? I mean, it's an exhibition game, but it kind of isn't, right? It's not like your routine preseason where you've got a handful of preseason games, and then you've got 82 regular season games before you get to the playoffs. I mean, there's a completely different approach to this.
I honestly, Dregs, I think it's so unusual. It's even hard to imagine what the players would think because it was an exhibition game, but it's not the same. It's in July, and so I think there would be a little bit of uncertainty, a little bit of nervousness, but a lot of, I just want to wait and see how this is going to play out. Like the Toronto-Montreal game started, and I think guys were kind of like, didn't really know where to go, where to be, and 30 seconds later, the puck's in the net.
Yeah.
And like that happens a lot in a summer scrimmage. And that's exactly what that looked like.
By the way, we've got Winnipeg Jets head coach Paul Maurice joining us on episode 35 of the Ray and Dregs podcast coming up. And it seemed fitting, didn't it? I mean, Mo was our first guest on the Ray and Dregs podcast. So why wouldn't he be our first guest, coming out of the pause and telling us a little bit more about what hub life is like? So looking forward to that.
He had to do some fishing when he was away, eh? He strikes me as a fisherman.
Well, hold on. He 100% is a fisherman. And Paul is a fairly basic, simple man in terms of how he lives his life and his lifestyle and all of that. But one of his luxuries, and maybe we'll ask him about it, is a pretty kick-ass fishing boat. But I like you, like me, like our families, he took the self-isolation process very, very seriously. So even though his cottage and his fishing boat and all that are pretty close to Winnipeg, I think he self-isolated and stayed close. I don't believe there was a whole lot of fishing.
I wonder if he was fishing off his phone, like get one of those games on there where you can fish on your phone.
I doubt it. He's not that old of a guy. He's early 50s, but I mean, he can answer his cell phone. He can call out on his cell phone. You get the odd text on his cell phone. I don't get the sense that he's playing games on his cell phone. So look forward to Paul Maurice joining us in the podcast. Bubble life, everybody seems pretty happy. And I've had a number of people compare it to a world championship with more restrictions, of course. But you've got all of these teams, in one hotel, and there are a few hotels in Toronto that are being utilized, and likewise in Edmonton. But have you heard any complaints? Because I haven't. Everybody seems fairly pleased with the environment.
I have not. I think the guys are still kind of getting used to, you wake up and you get tested, and like that. Like there's some quick reminders that you're not just in a hotel hanging out. Now, I think the league has done a really thorough job, from what I understand, of trying to anticipate what might be an issue or a problem. And but don't forget, in 10 days, Dregs, there's going to be 8 teams leaving.
Yeah,
4 out of each bubble, and all of a sudden there's going to be a little more room, perhaps. But in short order, no matter how nice it is, the guys are going to go, wait a minute, I'm in these gates here that I literally can't get out, and there'll be an adjustment for them. But I think they all knew when they voted for this that this was probably going to be the case.
Well, I think it's NHL Hub Life, the Twitter account. Are you following?
Yes, I am now. Yep.
I mean, tremendous, because you get a glimpse multiple times of the day as to what these guys are up to. Some of the personal touches, all of those things. And I believe it was NHL Hub Life who tweeted out, and Gabe Landeskog, I think, supplied the video evidence. But Burakovsky brought in like 14 pairs of shoes.
Yeah.
To the Hub.
I don't get it.
Okay, Ray Ferraro is going into the Hub, and you're told that you can bring one essential item outside of the stuff that you need. What would your essential item be?
My putter.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I would be putting in my room.
Really?
Or in the hallway. Oh, yeah, for sure.
Well, our buddy Darren Pang, I'm sure you saw the video that he posted going into Wednesday's action. St. Louis, Chicago, which didn't go very well for the St. Louis Blues. But that's exactly what he brought. I was actually surprised, not the fact that he brought a putter, because you can bring a putter, but he's got the full,
Oh, hey, nobody, I'm going to say nobody, and of course there will be somebody, but nobody takes their golf as seriously as Panger. Like, he doesn't fool around. Oh, no. That was not a surprise to me that he had that all laid out. He's a good putter, by the way. Really good putter. But that's what I would bring. What would you bring, Tiny?
Yeah, Tiny's just getting picked up. And I muted myself, but now I'm unmuting just because we're relaunching here. And I think it's important to have Tiny, the Ray and Dregs podcast mascot, as part of this. So she's being picked up by the dog walker now. And now she's quiet. But that was nice, wasn't it? That was just
where would one walk a Great Dane?
Actually,
you need room, right?
Yeah, and there's a quarry not far from where we live. I mean, the company that we go with, it's tremendous. Because they can let them off leash, and there's a pack of like a dozen or 15 of these dogs, and they can
of who? Of Great Danes?
No, they're not all Great Danes.
I was going to say that would look like a bunch of small horses running around.
Yeah, no, it's terrific. And the best part is, I mean, trying to walk a Great Dane is a challenge, because like I'm almost half jogging just to get her pace to where she's comfortable with walking. So I'm out of gas within about 500 yards, and she hasn't even warmed up yet. So that's why we've got the dog walking experience. Back to hockey for a moment. Is it even plausible at this point, based on what we've seen in the exhibition games, to identify, aside from what you know on paper, when you look at the rosters, who should be the best, who's the top contender? I mean, how do you analyze that? I mean, is that what you do? You look at the games that were played in the regular season before the pause, and then the one game exhibition, and go, okay, well, that team looks pretty good. Maybe they're the top team that we should be, considering the Stanley Cup favorite.
For me, no. I mean, if somebody played terribly the other day, I'm not going to write off St. Louis because they lost 4-0 to Chicago.
No.
Right. And I don't think you should look at a player or a team that was fantastic in the opener and say, man, they're going to use this as a springboard. I mean, it's one game. Yeah. The problem with it, though, Dregs, is I played in these 3 of 5 series. I think it was 1986 when I was with Hartford, and they go fast. So, like, you can say, oh, he wasn't good today, he'll be better tomorrow. Well, there's not many tomorrows in a series like this. And, I'll give you this scenario. Say you lose the first game. Say you're a team favorite. You lose the first game. Halfway through the first period, your goalie's had a tough day in game 2. You're down 3-0. Man, you could be finished. Like, it could literally be that fast. So the urgency, if the guys are into playing, like, and I'm sure there's some guys that just aren't quite mentally into this. Yeah. And that'll be a challenge for them. But if you're not quite into it, your team's going to be swept aside pretty quick.
We're on that vein. Were you surprised that more NHL guys didn't opt out? Because I was. I didn't think that we'd have 50, but I wouldn't have been shocked if there were 50 because 2 players per team gets you to 48 pretty quick. Obviously, a 24-team field. I don't know if I was impressed by the few numbers. I certainly respect the decision by those individual players in opting out, but I kind of expected it to be a bigger number.
Yeah, I think I thought in really in all the sports that there would be bigger numbers of players that opted out. Yeah. And yet then when I take myself back to being that age, and I'm like, man, I would have gone. I
bulletproof, right?
You would, but I would have been scared and nervous because I know the way I am, but I still would have gone. I would have probably asked, well, I was just going to say, I would have asked lots of questions, but when you're 25, maybe you don't. Right. Maybe you, I think the guys now would ask more questions than we did back then. Yeah. But there still is a certain degree of this is all looked after. Somebody will look after it. Although you could be like Major League Baseball and think somebody's looking after it, and then you got 18 guys on one team test positive.
I mean, there's no way that the NHL, the NBA, the other leagues aren't looking at baseball and going, you should have paid attention because they were all in it together, right? Like, I mean, all the commissioners were talking when the world was thrust into the pause. I just don't understand why baseball thought that they could just blaze a trail and move forward as per usual.
Well, not in given the way the numbers are across the states. Like they're just, it's just not the time for it. And so it's disappointing for sure. And, and there's certainly some people not very happy with what's happened in Major League Baseball. It was a flawed plan from the get-go.
All right. Chicago, Montreal weren't making the playoffs. It's an imperfect scenario, but it's the best that the league could come up with. And I'm not being critical. I'm looking forward to it, to be fair. I think it's definitely going to be unique, and I think it's going to be exciting. In saying that, if either the Chicago Blackhawks or the Montreal Canadiens win the Stanley Cup, is that accomplishment tarnished in any way because it took a pandemic and a forced pause and a very unique established scenario for Montreal and Chicago to first qualify for the field?
I think it's going to be really hard for the winner, like whoever it is. If it's one of those two teams, I mean, that's like a lightning bolt. In most cases, I would say no, there shouldn't be an asterisk, but they shouldn't be in the tournament. I mean, we know why they're in, right? Because they're trying to close off the regular season without closing off the regular season and getting to the playoffs. Like, I understand all that. and to the enormity of trying to win 5 rounds, I mean, you would have to respect their effort and how hard it is, but it wouldn't be right.
So I'm trying to envision, I'm putting Ray Ferraro as a player into the 2020 playoffs here, the 1920 playoffs.
He'd be slow. He'd be slow.
No. I always push back at that because, yeah, I mean, we can watch games from the 80s and the 90s now, and players look slow and the goaltending looks ridiculous. But you were top athletes back in that day, so you would be that now.
Right.
So
okay. Yeah.
I dismiss all of that. What I'm thinking of is the mental warfare that you would enlist to start the 2021 season. Chicago wouldn't be a shock to me if they won the Stanley Cup. I mean, Chicago has a pretty rich history with the current roster that they have, for the most part. Montreal winning, like, how relentless would you try and be, the following season? So the first time you play the Montreal Canadiens, if you're with the Islanders or whoever,
and they've just won the Cup,
and they've just won.
There's nothing to say. What are you going to say? You guys shouldn't have even been there, and they'd be like, "Yeah, where were you?"
Yeah, well,
there'd be nothing to say.
You'd find something to say. Like, I mean, maybe it wouldn't be Carey Price. That's a bad example, but a fourth liner.
No, Dregs, there is literally nothing to say. Whether you think they deserve to be in the tournament or not, if they won, there is zip to say.
Right. I still think you'd find something to say. We've got time for one more topic here, so I'm going to give you a choice. You want to talk about Mike Babcock joining Todd Woodcroft, and he's not officially, I guess he is officially on the staff. He's in an advisory role at the University of Vermont. Or you want to talk about the Arizona debacle and everything going on that ultimately led to John Chayka terminating his contract as general manager.
Well, I don't know.
Want to do it?
Quickly. I don't know enough about the Arizona stuff. I mean, I know what's been reported and what you guys have all reported, but to get into the real nuts and bolts of this thing, it just is crazy because, a short time ago they signed John Chayka to a 3-year extension.
Yeah,
that's the one of the sticking points. That's the thing I don't quite have a handle on. It's like he just signed. And so whatever happened between that signing of the contract and when he terminated the deal. But man, they just can't seem to get ahead of it there, right? Yeah. It's always something. As for Babs going to Vermont as a advisor, I can't quite picture him in that role, which kind of cracks me up.
Anyway. Like, you mean he's got to be in charge? So
yes. Yeah. I mean, his personality is that he's in charge. And so this is, I mean, I don't know what he's been doing for the past number of months, but it is, it almost makes me giggle to think of him in an advisory role. But he's a skier, right?
Oh, buddy.
Wouldn't he like being in Vermont anyway?
Well, Stowe, the ski resort is real close by. And it's funny because you say, I don't know what he's been doing for the last 3 months. I sent him a text 2 days ago asking that question. He flipped me a picture back of him just getting on the boat from water skiing. And then furthermore asked him about the advisory position in Vermont. And he said, I'm looking forward to it. It's going to be fun to be around the lads again. It'll keep me sharp in hockey. And then he about a minute later sent another note and he said, fabulous. He was real good skiing there at Stowe. I'm going to have a blast, but I'm not advising Woody. And Woody and I go back to the 2004 World Championship. He was my video coach. We had a real good time. So I'm looking forward to getting back.
Does he type in that voice?
Yeah. I don't know why I did that, but... All right, those are the headlines. Good to have you back, Ray. You're sharp as always.
No, I don't know about that. I'm looking forward to watching some hockey. I got to say, it's fun. I think like everybody, it's fun to turn on the TV and see it there. And I hope it goes well. I hope everybody can be as healthy as possible. And I think the games are going to be fun to watch. And I'll be sitting on my couch watching them.
Paul Maurice coming up, and a reminder, sports are back around the globe, and along with all the free sports and casino games, coolbet.co now has a daily betting odds and line report covering all the day's action that you can check out. You must be 19 years of age to play, and Coolbet reminds you, hey, stay cool and always bet responsibly. All right, Ray, it seems fitting, doesn't it? We talked about this earlier, that we would have the head coach of the Winnipeg Jets on the Ray and Dregs podcast. He was our first ever guest, high-quality individual. So we're excited to bring Paul back into the mix from, where are you, Paul? Are you at Rogers Place in Edmonton in the big fancy coach's office? Is that where you are?
Yeah. No, so we're in the one of the suites. So the coaches, because they move the rooms every day, you don't have a kind of a set room down by your locker room, but they give all the coaching staffs have one of the suites. We're in behind, our suites are in behind that wall of video that you see during the games. So we don't watch the games from here, but we like to come up here and freeze.
How good did it feel to be back on the bench last night? All kidding aside.
You know what? So we would have never done that, right? I had 15 straight practices in a row. And listen, guaranteed the players don't like it. Coaches don't like it either, right? Because you know what you want to get done, but I mean, how many different drills see you come up to do the same darn thing? And they needed the game bad. Coaches did too. So it was a good break from practice.
Paul, you didn't scrimmage much in your 2 weeks back. Why not? Some teams did, some teams didn't. Why didn't you?
Yeah, so we did a little more than I think people noticed. Part of our setup in Winnipeg, we used 2 sheets of ice, and we would move every 20 minutes or so because it was really hot in Winnipeg and the ice was tough there. But and we would only run. So we scrimmaged 5 times, but we never ran a scrimmage game. And the reason is that I like scrimmages a lot as long as they stay right. But there might not be, in my mind, anything worse you can do to your team than put them out and scrimmage poorly. So we're at 3 lines and 5D in each group, and that's if everybody stayed healthy because you're kind of mandated to 31. So we did one day, we did 2 20-minute blocks, running time blocks of scrimmage, and then we did 4 more actually scrimmages that were 20-minute blocks. And the idea was scrimmage as hard as fast as you can. But even in that 20 minutes, like we get down to the last 3 or 4 minutes, that scrimmage has started to fall apart all right. There's some bad habits creeping in. So I like scrimmaging. But I don't think I think it hurts you as soon as it drops.
What was your impression when the guys came in? Like, were you pleased? Were you surprised? I mean, what a crazy thing to get everybody back after so long.
They were in better shape than I anticipated, Ray. I think, and after 3 or 4 days, I was pretty comfortable that we were going to be all right. And then when we got here, we had our 2 best practices here. And so I think we built right, but I was really worried about probably 5 guys that just couldn't find ice. And they were in kind of different locals, like they didn't have a gym. So keep in mind, like it's almost a benefit to the younger guys that went back, lived at their parents' place because they had a gym in their parents' place. But we had a whole bunch of guys that wouldn't have had a gym in their house. They just go to the local gym whatever city that they were kind of, I don't know, vacationing is the right word. So those guys were a bigger concern. But what we found was our top 5 or 6 athletes are probably now in better shape than when they left because they're not beat up, right? They didn't get that far out of shape that they couldn't get it back. Those guys are elite athletes like Blake Wheeler, Jack Roslovic, Kyle Connor, those guys that test out unbelievable every year. I think if we tested them now, they'd be stronger than they've ever been.
I got to say, last night I thought you guys started a little sluggish. You turned the puck over a bunch, and of course Hellebuck was fabulous. But the challenge of an exhibition game when it kind of sort of means a lot. My favorite part was when Nick Ehlers left for, you guys say, precautionary measures, and all of a sudden Jansen Harkin's got to throw his gear on. I thought he had 3 great shifts.
And he gets to the bench and it's just about the 11-minute mark, and I'm waiting for a timeout to give him a couple laps, and we couldn't get it. And we couldn't get a timeout. So his first shift, they got scored on, and he took a fair amount of abuse from that on the bench. I like the way the game kind of evolved. We did start slow, but so the longer answer to that one is I was really happy that we drew the Vancouver Canucks just based on the games that we play against them. I'm a kind of a big Travis Green fan in terms of how hard they play. So they put every puck in deep and they come hard. And that team, I mean, that was not an exhibition game. That from the bench, the speed and the intensity that they came at us with, it caused us a bunch of problems and forced us to kind of get up to speed. And I thought we did. So I was happy with kind of that part of the result. Both teams will have a bunch of stuff they don't like. I mean,
right.
In all of the exhibition, there's some turnovers that you don't expect in playoffs. And man, some pizzas right up the middle. And we got all of us. That is our challenge. Get rid of that part of your game. But I liked the game because they came hard at us. They put a lot of pucks in deep, put a lot of pressure on our D. I think we see the exact same kind of game from Calgary. Really aggressive pinching team. And it forced us to get a little better.
Do we talk too much, Paul, about the atmosphere, we being the media? I mean, it's obvious there are no fans in the building. The NHL has done as good a job as they possibly could in manufacturing or fabricating some sort of atmosphere. But who's kidding who? I mean, especially in a playoff environment, you think of the games in Winnipeg where the fans are right on top of you. I mean, it is tremendous. And players can pull motivation from that. Is that at all concerning that you're not going to have that?
Not. Like, first of all, you're 100% right. Like, it is dead quiet in that building, and you can hear everything, which makes it a lot funnier. I got to tell you, because you can hear the entire bench beaking each other, and it's an exhibition game, so there's lots of good chirps last night going both ways. There are a couple of things that I think that I like. You actually interact with your whole bench completely differently. You do. You can go down. You can talk to a guy quietly and have a solid understanding of a conversation, and they don't pump music in the timeouts. So, and then all the stoppages are so loud sometimes at the bench level, and especially when you get into the playoffs, it's tough to talk to guys. So now you can do that. Anyway, the fans not being there is huge. Like it is. It's nothing like a playoff game, but the NHL, I think, has done a good job. So, I mean, no complaints.
Yeah, but hold on a sec. I mean, we're not going to see another GIF or meme or whatever they call it that's still out there of you doing the F you, and F you too. Like, I mean, because if that were to happen with any coach, I mean, the janitor at the top of the building cleaning out the press box is going to hear it.
Yeah, my niece sent me a meme with every word I said there on the bottom subtitle. So I still look at her like she's a 4-year-old little girl, and I was blushing awful. Anyway, you're right, but we played Calgary one night in Greensboro, 22,000-seat arena, and in North Carolina, and they had a snowstorm, and we had about, I don't know, they announced 400 people, but there were 8, and the linesman skates over and says, Paul, you got to stop yelling because it's awful. And so I got a little experience with that nobody in the building kind of thing. But there's some truth to that. Listen, like the referees, you guys both know the intensity. Ray is probably a big part of this. The intensity of those games, some things get said and it's loud. You can get away with a fair amount. The referees understand the intensity is what I'm trying to say. And they'll let you get a fair. But you can't embarrass a guy. And what's different now is that if you fire something out that's offside, and the other team can hear it, I think the referees will be a little bit more sensitive with it. And I would understand that. You got to be real careful with what you do and what you say on the bench because certainly everybody can hear it. I watched the Calgary and Edmonton game the other night from the suite. Honest to God, like you truly can hear everything, and you can hear conversations. I mean, it's not just a guy screaming, but if you can record it, I think the best chirps in the world will be in this playoffs because you can hear all of them. So that's going to be worth trying to get your hands on some of the B loop for what's going on down there.
Now, Paul, so everybody talks about this. Hey, we've never seen this before, and it's unprecedented, and yada yada yada. It's of course it's obvious. How much do you even refer to that, or will you talk to your team just like it's a regular playoff series? Because I think I would want my coach to be sure, like not to say, hey, guys, I don't know what's going to happen out there. I want my guy to be leading me.
Well, that conversation started about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And in truth, I mean, I do have some experience playing in empty buildings. There was nobody in Greensboro, and we felt, I mean, that's a long time ago, but I remember thinking the first year having no fans really hurt us because we were embarrassed by it. But the other team had come out, and it's the National Hockey League. But the next year we had a huge advantage because we had keep your eyes down. Keep your eyes down. Don't look in the stands. Keep your eyes down on the game and make sure you're talking on the bench. And other teams would come in and they'd be looking at the round going, oh my God, there's nobody here. And we just drop the puck and play hockey. So we have dealt with it. We tried to talk about anticipate the things that you're going to see on this. We anticipated the ice being in poor condition, but I think you're seeing a lot more flip pucks in the neutral zones than we see in a regular game. So there's some little details that maybe we tried to find what's hockey like in August. And then I think the bigger part, Ray, is can you get your team to enjoy it? Can you have fun with this? Now, the intensity is going to be there. It's full-on man's game when the puck drops. But all of this stuff around it could be a lot of fun if you take it that way. So what I think so far it's gone great for the Winnipeg Jets is there's no complaining. There hasn't been any. And I expected, not because it's the Jets, but this has been my experience. I think I've been around for 4 kind of lockout work stoppages. And the 4 months after a work stoppage, the players are really, really hard to deal with, right? Because they just spent 4 months talking about how bad the man's giving it to them, right? Like, no, it's true. Honest to God, true. The first 4 months after a lockout, they complain about everything, right? The team being too cheap for this and too cheap for this. So I was expecting a little bit more, to be honest with you, and I haven't gotten any of it. That's a conversation at the coaches' tables. Our players have just responded really, really well, and there seems to be an underlying thing of like this is actually fun. It never happens before. I mean, we always talk about the grind and the routine, and it's true, right? You get into that Groundhog Day of the NHL. There's nothing that we've seen before, and it's been a lot of fun. I'm going to say it's kind of like, back in junior hockey, everybody was on the bus together. They went to high school together. So everybody thinks the junior hockey was almost the most fun they've ever had because they were all moving together. And that's what's happening here. You're kind of quarantined together. So they truly get to hang out together. You can't leave the place. So there aren't 5 guys going to a restaurant 20 minutes away. They're all sticking together. So it's been fun. Now I'm 4 days in. I'm hoping to, maybe I'll if I get to stick around for a month and a half, I'd be pretty happy about that. But maybe there's more complaints then.
So, like, what are you doing when you're not on the ice? And like, what do you do? You got, I don't know, in Edmonton, I just saw the pictures in Toronto, Paul. Like, they've got the gates up. It's like you're in a.
But I'm missing you there. I got a guy. Yeah. He's all excited about his testing things. Go ahead. So
yeah, does that guy know, by the way, when he announces the goals that there's nobody there?
Oh, he's pretty excited about it too.
Yeah, he's very excited.
I heard the crowd up last night. Yeah.
No, I said it's like you're in the gates there. It's like you're in a minimum security prison.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you do?
There's a little sign on the outside that says "Don't feed the animals" when we walk by. So that's part of it, Ray. Like it's you don't see the outside. You got to look out your hotel room window to know that there's a world going on out here.
Yeah.
The NHL, like, they have done an unbelievable job here. Speaking of testing, when you come in, there's 20 rows, right? Like that you can get through. Like, it looks like they've been here for 2 years getting this thing up and running. They've done a great job, and I think the players understand the challenges that the NHL had to put it on, and it's been good with all the moving parts here. You got 12 teams moving in and out of rooms. It's an awesome sight for sure.
Ray, the food. How is the food?
It's good enough, well, good enough for me. You know what? It's fine. Like, there's not the variety. We got a real good restaurant in our hotel that'll deliver food. So right now, the first 5 days are the toughest because we're truly kind of quarantined in our rooms, in our meal room at the rink. And then after day 5 or 6, they got a whole bunch of food trucks that are go. They got it planned for it. They just needed to kind of keep everybody safe and keep everybody masked up. So the food is probably not what we're normally used to, but like, come on, like it's still like way better than if you came to my house and ate. And that's not now I'm in trouble.
Wow.
What I meant by that, if I was cooking,
gonna like that.
If I was, if I was cooking, no, she'd agree. She'd agree.
All right. So Ray announced earlier that his item of necessity, if he was carrying something in, would be a putter, right? I mean, just kill some time. Not that you have a whole lot of time to kill, but what did you bring in aside from Led Zeppelin's greatest hits? I mean, what else can
you know what? That's the beauty of Apple Music. You're never that far away from it. It's probably my iPad, and that would be the thing that I like to read. So when I get some time away from the rink, and you're kind of locked in your room, I'm kind of an iBooks fan, so that's what I do with my time. I'll read on my phone, but these old eyes don't work so well. So that iPad's that's kind of my break, my release.
What are you reading?
I got a spectrum of stuff. Actually, a bunch of it I can't because you get in trouble. No, hang on, it's political, so I don't want to. I don't want to tip my hat to what side.
I'm a history guy. I like history. So there's so many.
So let's see. You've announced that you're a big political reader, and you've offended your wife's cooking.
Yeah.
Other than that, it's been a pretty good interview.
No, I'm doing all right. The Complete Guide to Butchering Cooking Wild Game. One's interesting for me. Team of Teams is what I'm going through right now.
Wow.
The Art of Learning. That's a good one. One of the best books I've read in an awfully long time is The Culture Code. And then if you want something, if you like history, read this one, On Grand Strategy. Outstanding book. And it's kind of strategic leadership lessons, but through the eyes of historical battles. I love that one. And you know what? I like that one so much, I'm going to read that one again. So that's what I got going right now.
No Archie comics?
Well, yeah.
Oh,
but
okay.
It's just enough. I can't give you the answer to that. Okay.
All right, Paul.
I'll give you an answer about 3 weeks from the hub.
Yeah,
that's the running jokes. Anyway.
All right. Well, we really appreciate you doing this. Living in the moment, hub life.
What number am I now? What number was this episode? 35?
Yeah.
So I'm 1 in 35 right now? That's good.
Yeah.
I like
that. So I think
get the jacket. You get a jacket at some point.
Well, if we're doing this in 60 days.
Yeah.
Oh, we got a jacket for you.
Okay.
Oh.
I like it. I think
no, like it'll be I think it'll have the crest, and like Dregs is coming up with a crest. He's quite an artist, so
yeah, just your face is like right there. It'd be
just what you need.
Yeah, that'd be good in the hub. Nobody give me a hard time.
No. All right, Mo. Be well, and thanks for doing this.
All right. See you soon, guys. Thanks for having me.
Be well.
Yeah.
All right, Paul Maurice, our guest in episode 35, Ray. And so the one thing that Paul didn't acknowledge there, but he did as he broke away from the interview, is how cold it is inside that building, which is decent considering it's 30 plus degrees Celsius outside in Edmonton, and you're trying to keep ice as hard as it can be in August. So it sounds like the ice crew is doing a nice job of keeping things as good as they can.
Yeah, he mentioned before we started and after, man, it is freezing in here. So I got to tell you, like, if he wasn't coaching, he would be a star of stars on television.
Yeah.
Like he is witty and smart, and he's got a great perspective on a lot of different things, and two-time guest. I mean, he is our first two-time guest.
Well, and the takeaway for me too is of course he loves the game. You don't invest, like you do or he has lifelong and not appreciate everything that goes into the game. But he referenced how the Hub City experience is very similar to back in the day as a junior hockey player, and in his case, a junior coach. But he says it in almost a gleeful fashion. Like, this is cool. I get to hang around with the coaching staff, spend lots of hours with them. And then his answer talking about his experiences were at the work stoppages where the players came back grouchy as hell for the first 4 months, and they're not that now. It sounds like everybody is bought in entirely from a Jets perspective.
Well, I think they've always done a really good job in Winnipeg. I mean, there's obvious challenges to, living in Winnipeg in January. Some guys aren't cut out for it. Some guys like it more than others. But they've always, certainly since the return, but they've seemed to be able to meld the team together. And lots of that is on Paul. Like a lot of that is on Paul. I think they've done a terrific job in Winnipeg. That's still a good team too. And so when we're talking about teams that are going to be a bother, Winnipeg could be one of those teams. their first round series, I think, is as high quality as any in that first round.
Yeah, and you referenced it in one of the questions to Paul. It's not like that exhibition game was flawless against the Vancouver Canucks. It wasn't, but arguably the most important piece, Connor Hellebuyck, more or less saved the day or kind of created a bit more momentum, and that allowed the rest of the group to kind of pick up where he left off. Just a quick thought, on Connor Hellebuyck and where you position him among the elite level goaltenders in this 24-team field.
Well, I'm trying to think of guys that are better than him in the league, and I don't have a lot. I mean, for me, he's a top 5 goalie in the league. I think he's fantastic. What really, he's got this like laser focus of the way he deals with things, right? He's always been that way. He's very almost defiant in his confidence of himself. But go back a few years ago, and when the Jets, had that terrific playoff, the next year he came back and he wasn't quite as good. His game stepped off a bit. He went and basically rebuilt his game in the offseason following the year that he stepped back. And it was like he was not going to be an average guy. He couldn't accept that. And he's been brilliant ever since. He was really good last year. This year I think he's the Vezina Trophy winner. I think he was the best goalie start to finish in the league. And when Winnipeg was trying to figure out their D, when they had 6 guys, back there, and he was making 35 saves a night, and the Jets were hanging around. Then they got healthy and better, and he was still doing it. I think he's one of the league's very best.
Yeah, I do too. I think he's wired for this, in terms of maintaining focus after a 4.5 month pause. Yeah. You could say that about other elite level goalies that are in the field. I understand that, but he recognizes that there's an opportunity here. So thanks again to Paul Maurice for joining us on Ray and Dregs. Ask Ray and Dregs anything. We did this during the pause, and it seemed to be a very popular segment, so we're going to continue on with it. And when we say Ask Ray and Dregs anything, we mean Ask Ray and Dregs anything. Every week in the podcast, you can send your question to us by email by going to rayanddregs.com or on Twitter or our Instagram channels. You'll find us at Ray and Dregs. We'll answer as many questions and queries as we can each week right here on Ray and Dregs. Ray from Clyde. Clyde wants to know if it is bittersweet that you aren't stuck in a bubble calling NHL games. Clyde says, I'd imagine being able to watch playoff hockey and spend the summer with your family has been a great alternative.
I will say, when we were finding out whether we were going to be included in doing the games or not, or whether I was going to be doing games for TSN, or, I do them for NBC as well in a regular playoff year.
Yeah.
My thought was, man, I don't know if I want to go into that bubble for 60 days or whatever it's going to be, that. I really thought that. And then when I wasn't included, I was kind of pissed off. I wanted to do the games. And so I was of two minds of it, for sure. It's a really good question, Clyde. And I do like what we've been able to do. And, we'll go on a camping trip a little later on in the month that I certainly wouldn't have been able to go on. And so I was of two minds to that.
Okay, hold on a sec.
Oh boy.
Camping trip.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to visualize this. Is it glamping where?
No,
really?
We're in a tent.
Stop it.
Yeah. Well, I will tell you this, because you know how handy I am.
Keep the sharp knives away from Ray.
I carry whatever needs to be there. I'll say both Cammie and I put up the tent, but she tells me this pole is the one that goes over the top. This one I have no idea. We've put this tent up 10 times, Dregs. I still don't know how to do it.
Okay, but I again, you're a healthy family. Are you eating pails of trail mix here? Because I don't see you putting the weenies on a willow and roasting them over the fire.
No, we have everything kind of breakfast is pancakes and eggs, right? Who doesn't love pancakes and eggs when you're camping, right? And have some coffee, sit around, and but then most of the food Cammie preps before we go. It goes in this cooler, and you just heat it up. So, look, I like burgers. We're having burgers.
Nice.
I'm not a hot dog guy. I don't.
Okay.
They're okay, but burgers, oh yeah, for sure.
See, we don't want to invade your privacy. You're entitled to your family time, but you have shared some of your family experience here on the podcast. You and your jammies, those ridiculous black and red plaid soft pants.
Oh, they've been getting a lot of use too, Dregs.
But I feel like we need to be able to post both on the website, maybe incorporate here in the pod as well, some pictures of you camping.
I think we can do that. Absolutely. Yeah. I will tell you this, the first night we went camping, so Cammie's never really been camping either, and I certainly haven't. I mean, I don't know what the hell's going on. So she has this, she goes, okay, look, because the kids were, this was 3-4 years ago. The kids are little. She's like, okay, shoes off before you get in the tent, because otherwise you bring all this dirt in, right?
Yeah.
So we're like, yeah, okay, so that makes sense. So we because I'm neat, I've got all the shoes lined up right outside the tent. It pours rain overnight. Our shoes for the weekend were soaked. Like, what a dummy. I couldn't have banged the shoes off and brought them inside. I left them outside. And I'm listening to the rain on the tent, and it's kind of nice. Not once does it occur to me, hey, our shoes are out in the rain. That was bad form.
We'll keep the location private for obvious reasons, but if I were to find out the location of your camping experience, I would pay big dollars to send somebody there. And at like 3 a.m, I wouldn't do this to Reese and Riley. Reese
would be freaked out about it. He's 10, right?
Yeah, I'd be scratching on the side of the tent.
Oh,
and just
put it this way: if somebody's going to save the family, it'll probably be Cammie.
Yeah, you're hiding.
I'll be hiding in the back corner of the tent. Not that it's that big, but I'll be in the back corner.
I'm with you. You go first. All right. Well, another question. This one from Young Judd at YoungJudd-1 on Twitter. Do you guys think that the Vancouver Canucks fan base overreacts to situations like Judd Brackett leaving, and that reflects negatively on that fan base? Or is it just the passion of the fan base, not just in Vancouver, but the Canucks fan base in general? He thinks, Young Judd-1 on Twitter, he thinks it's mostly passion. Ray, what do you think?
I think Canucks Twitter overreacts to almost everything. like seriously, like it is a really engaged, he's right, really passionate fan base. And it is, Judd Brackett was the head of amateur scouting. He and Jim Benning had a disagreement over authority, I guess, running the draft itself. And so Judd's contract was up on June 30th and he left and is subsequently signed in Minnesota with Bill Guerin in the Wild, which is kind of funny because they're now playing in this playoff and Judd Brackett's got nothing to do with it because he can't scout and there's no players to draft right now. So it's an overreaction, but it's living in Vancouver. It's something you kind of expect. I mean, it happens a lot with almost any topic.
All right. One more question from Melissa, not far from Vancouver. Melissa wants to know, Ray, what's your verdict on the Kraken name and team logo? And what about the Climate Pledge Arena name? Now, Melissa isn't a fan of either name. She believes it should have been the Sockeyes. I like the Kraken. That mythical stuff, I can buy into that. I think from a marketing and a merchandise perspective, Seattle and the NHL by extension are going to have a field day with the Kraken. So I'm on board with it. I like the colors. I like the third jersey. I'm not critical of it at all. I understand Sockeyes, but I would have preferred the Kraken. What about you?
Yeah, I like Sockeyes too. I think it's a good name. Historically, it's a good name in the Seattle region. I love the Kraken. I think it's I think it's a cool name. It's a fun name. I think at some point here, you mocked my choice of Kraken months ago.
I feel like I did, didn't I?
Yeah, you sure did.
And I think I challenged you to explain what a Kraken was.
Yeah, and you thought that I had no idea. That
and you knew it. You knew it.
Yeah. So, which was shocking to me even, that I knew. But I like it. I love the colors. I like things that are a little bit different because we get stuck in the black and red and all that sort of stuff. So I like it. As far as the Climate Pledge Arena, I like, Melissa says she doesn't like the name of the arena. Like, they're basically it's $500 million and it's donated to climate change. Exactly. So I'm 100% on board with it. I will say this, and I'm biased, right? Because if people don't know, like my wife Cammie is one of the amateur scouts with Seattle, and she's been involved in a lot of conference calls and task force, and they're really an engaging organization. I mean, they've put this together, and from all different walks of life, it's an incredibly diverse group, and I think will be a leader in the way organizations are built, from their new ways of looking at things, from the diversity of their hires, from the procedures they're going to put in place to the way that they run things. I think it's going to be a model franchise. Now, we'll see how they do on the ice. That's a whole other thing. But in my mind, Dregs, they haven't missed yet. They've not missed yet.
No, I'm with you. I mean, everything has been handled, not flawlessly, but everything that is out of their control is out of their control.
Well, what's handled flawlessly? Nothing. Ever.
Nothing. I'm going to have trouble, and you're an analyst, you travel a lot, so you'll find balance in this between saying Seattle and the Kraken, because it's not Seattle the Kraken, it's the Seattle Kraken. But I've always just referred to the Kraken as the Kraken. So I'm going to forget about the Seattle part, and every time they play a team, I'm going to say, well, Canucks didn't do very well against the Kraken last night.
Yeah, I think that's 100% the way it's going to go. And remember when Anaheim came in, and they wanted to be known as the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, and I'm like, nobody got that right.
No, I still slip once in a while with the Ducks. I do. Like, I'll be doing a radio show. I mean, they've been the Anaheim Ducks for how many years? And it'll slip once, twice a year where I'll go, well, the Mighty Ducks, and I'm like, the Ducks.
Yeah, wrong. That's not them. But everybody knows.
All right. That's Ask Ray and Dregs Anything. Again, you can submit your questions for episode 36. By the way, I think we're going to play this day by day. Is that okay with you? Paul Maurice, a great guest on episode 35. I wish that we could say, okay, Alex Ovechkin is going to be our guest in episode 36. Full disclosure, we can't do that. I mean, the Hub City is a different environment. The planning is a little bit more strategic and complex. So how about we use our social media channels in the days ahead leading up to episode 36 to declare our next guest? Is that, I think that's fair, isn't
it? As always with this, you just tell me what you want me to tweet. Tell me how you want me to tweet it, and I'll make sure I get it out there.
All right.
Because I know you'll have it. You're on it.
I'm on it. What's the week ahead look like for you other than, watching a lot of hockey? And
dentist appointment in 20 minutes. Can't wait. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, what's going on there, by the way? Is it just a cleaning, or is it something?
No, I got one tooth here that got rattled around.
Where?
100.
Let's see.
Oh, right in the back there, Drake's right back here. So I think I got a bad day in front of me. But anyway, dentist, and then, I don't know. Whatever the heck. Watch some games, and I don't know. Like, even when I got a busy day. Oh, I am back on radio, so I'll be on radio about 6 times today. So.
Yeah. Has anyone pissed you off yet on radio?
Just that I had to start again.
It
was really nice to not have it to do,
Because again, I've worked with you enough to know that you, whether it's radio or podcasts or hosting a segment on television, you really like the guys that make a statement as opposed to ask for your opinion or a question. They tell you what you need to know. You love that kind of approach, don't you?
I do like it. What I do enjoy is when you're on hold at the start of the segment for 7 minutes, and while they've got a whole show to do, like 4 hours, and you're like, man, I just want to do my 15 to 20 minutes, and because I've got another one right on the back end of this, and you sit there, you're on hold, you're like, please ask me a question so we could start. And sometimes it doesn't happen, and I'm sure I do it too.
See, I wish we had known officially that you were having dental work done. I thought it was a cleaning, because I would have postponed the recording of the podcast. That would have been good time. You would have talked to really good ear.
That is that first hour or two after the dentist is never good.
All right. Well, you be well. Enjoy the hockey. I think it's going to be intriguing, and I'm looking forward to your analysis during, but also in episode 36, because it's fun sometimes to expect the unexpected, isn't it?
It is, and there will be lots of that. Dregs, I think we'd be remiss. I just wanted to mention, and I know you've been close to this, but just want to wish Dale Hawerchuk all the best. He's back in the hospital and fighting away with stomach cancer, and Dale came on, and it was just a fabulous interview, and I felt really sad to hear that he was back in. But Dale, we're thinking of you and want to wish you all the best.
No question, and good on you for bringing that up, because the outpouring of support for Dale Hawerchuk in the last few days has been heartwarming. I know, because I speak and communicate with his son Eric on a regular basis. That means the world to Dale. I mean, he's literally in a fight for his life. That's where he's at. But he knows that he has so many good people, yourself included, Ray, the Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast in his corner. So I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. All the best, Dale. Be well.
So we need your feedback, podcast listeners, to rate the podcast and share it so hockey fans around the globe can find it. Thank you to all those who have already done that. And thanks to those who have subscribed to the Ray and Dregs podcast as well. Big shout out and big thank you to all of our partners that make the podcast possible. We could not do this without you. CoolBet.co, the free-to-play sports and casino game website. Thank you. Chris from CoolBet is going to be joining us soon on the pod. Chris is a character. We're going to have some fun with Chris. Boston Pizza, we're going to be seeing you for puck drop on that patio. Can't wait for that. Some cool stuff coming up soon with Doer Performance Denim. And with Ligaro Jewelers. You can now find the podcast and subscribe to it on YouTube, as we're doing it on video each week. So please do subscribe there. Thanks to Aaron the Tech Johnson for producing Ray and Dregs Hockey Podcast. And finally, another big thank you to Tony Ferraro for providing the music that you hear each week on the podcast. Look forward to episode 36. Thanks, everybody.